Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for having another look at one of the TKC Games vlogs. As you'll notice, we have a new attendee today, so you've probably all met Bob before. He's the wonderful gentleman with the fabulous Tailoring to Mordor t-shirt and the rather cool headset. I'm John, I'm the MD, and I'm also the guy who creates some of these board games that you all know and love. The silver fox that we've got on the screen is Andrew Allan, our business partner and operations director. Please say hello, Andrew. Tell people a little bit about what you've been doing with us.
Well, hi everybody. What have I been doing? I've been making websites, managing products, and trying to get John more sales. But mainly I've been involved largely with producing our 6 Degrees movie connection card game. So yeah, I've been having lots of fun while trying to get through day-to-day life, as well as doing this, and it's all been very exciting.
So Bob, where are we at with the software project? I know that since the last time you and I did one of these meetings, we've had quite a lot of progress. Some of which you'd probably like to kill me for.
Oh yeah. we found a much later version of some of the source stuff that we were working with. So I had to go through my translation process of actually getting it to compile on a modern compiler all over again. But as a result, we've now got a far more advanced copy of the game with the basics of supply, albeit it's not doing it in the way you initially wanted it to do it. So that's been my head scratching over this past couple of weeks, trying to work out how to make it do what you really want it to do.
Yeah, so to be quite clear, the system distributes supply across the map board as it should, and it appears to be correctly impacted by weather. Whether or not it's impacted by things like interdiction is an open question, because we haven't looked at that, because we're trying to work out why, even though nations do produce stuff that you can then send to frontline to supply your units, we're actually trying to work out why none of that worked. We now have worked out the problem was they hadn't fully implemented it, and it took one line of code or something to get it to start working. That obviously means that we have to update it. So we're on about the third or the fourth iteration of Bob's installer. I believe I've given you the odd bug report from it, if I'm not mistaken.
The odd bug report.
No, was it 55 that we've got so far?
Well, I'm just loading up the bug tracker to work out how many you had loaded up. It was quite a few. Although I do have bugs of why does this do this, which was the really useful ones.
Yeah. Well, you see, if I don't understand it, I'm just going to tell Bob. No, from a serious perspective, when I'm playing it, and unfortunately it's part of my job now, is to actually sit and play the game. I'm going through playing it with the rules open, trying to work out whether or not the damn thing's working right. So far, I've not actually found anything other than it wasn't giving me supply at the national level. I haven't found anything yet that doesn't work, at least 90% properly. That said, there are some things are a bit weird. We've got some bug reporting on stuff like naval combat, the way submarines work and so on. All needs to be kind of looked at. Quite a weird one where submarines are spotted when they're beside a coast. They shouldn't be. Coast watchers can't see a submerged submarine. Guys, it's not rocket science, but equally it does appear to be probably a catch-all spotting tool that they put into the code, and we probably need to come up with a special case for subs. Not that big a deal, but it's something we need to look at. So, Bob, what are we going to be working on in the code? Now we've got it decompiling, recompiling, and you've got a small list of bugs to go through.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Work through the list. Now, the code is still running against Microsoft XNA, and it's not even the later version of XNA. It's running against XNA 3.1. It is running now, but I'd rather it was on a modern game engine, which is we're pushing for Unity. So the next set of codes are get your fixes in at the same time as migrating the rendering to run in Unity instead of out of XNA. That should get rid of the last things limiting us to 32-bit, because the amount of data you had going around in there, we started running out of memory.
Yeah.
Having being able to take the game and the editor behind it, and that's the one that really does need a lot of RAM. Being able to take that to a 64-bit version of the binary will get rid of the few remaining crashes we were getting when we were out of memory. And I do want to know, why have we got a bug that says camel rule must be implemented?
Because we actually have a camel rule. If you find a PDF for Bar Nostrum, or if you own the game and you find the first mention of camel cavalry, you will notice that the units can do certain things. And this is from my personal experience when I was a kid watching camel racing in the Middle East. And you have to understand, nowadays, if you Google it, it's not what it used to be. Nowadays, they shove a robot in the back of the camel, and it's got two big spikes. And a guy sits with a remote control and pushes both sides forward, and it goes like that, and the camel goes scooting down the thing. And if it starts to veer to one side or another, the robot just batters the poor camel, right? So the camel does what it's told. Now, historically, camels, which are actually quite fast animals, used to have an 8-year-old boy put up in the back of the hump with a little cane, right? And he'd be tapping this camel, and the camel would either just say, "I'm not moving," or he'd get up and go completely in the wrong direction, totally random, with some poor child disappearing over the horizon into the desert. Or even better, they'd try and mount each other, or they'd basically have a fight, or essentially total chaos reigned in camel racing. It was the most wonderful sport to go and see. And this is why a really good camel, which obeyed the little boy with his cane, meant that a racing camel was literally worth millions of pounds more than something like a world-class horse that had won, you know, the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe and you know, the Epsom Derby and all that kind of stuff. So I came up with this wonderful little rule, which kind of simulates the chaos that camels can cause. And it's a little option. And there's 10 kind of options. So option 1 is it goes that way. Obviously, there's 6 directions, so that gets you 1 through 6. It just randomly goes that way, whether you want it to or not. Right? Option 7, as I recall, was tasty camels. It's now an infantry unit. Just put a hit marker on it, use it normally. Right, just it moves as infantry, not camels anymore. I think option 8 was something along the lines of not moving, don't care. And I think option 9 was the camels have won. Unit is annihilated. In other words, they just buggered off into the general distance, taking the riders with them. I can't remember the 10th one, but that's the camel rule. So it does need a die roll put on it. So if you tick the box for all optional rules, guess what? You get the camel rule. Now, interestingly enough, most of the guys I know that play Bannerman and Nostrum refuse to play it unless that rule's implemented.
Yeah.
Because apparently it causes total chaos. There's only 2 camel units in the entire game, as I recall, but it does make for a bit of fun. So that's why
you've lived in the Middle East for quite a long time, John. You know, in your youth.
Yeah, my dad was a civil engineer, so we were in Kuwait in the early 70s, then Saudi, and then back to Kuwait, and then while I was at uni, my dad was in Qatar. So I've been in the Middle East a lot. Just don't ask me to fly long haul again.
Did you ever eat camel?
Not that. Do you know? I don't know. I might have. I have eaten some weird stuff. I have eaten a sheep's eyeball.
I'm not going to give
that's what the guest of honor gets.
I'm afraid I'm not going to give you the punchline to that joke.
It's an adult audience, as I understand it. You'd be allowed to do so.
Yeah, I've eaten camel, John. Only the toe.
John gone for the next 10 minutes.
As you may have noticed, guys, the sense of humour about here does go downhill quite quickly. So it probably has to, given what we're doing. So what have I been up to? I guess it's a bit of a company briefing this as well, guys. So I'm waiting on prices for Balkan Fury 2. Again, I was promised them for Tuesday. Still don't have them. Sorry, guys, I can't tell you what it's going to cost when it releases. And I'm not prepared to book printing the damn thing until I know what I'm actually going to have to pay out. I know what Madagascar 2 is. I know what all the counters are for it. I know the maps, the box, all that stuff. The dice I've actually already got. They're somewhere just down here. What I don't have is the price for BF2, because for some reason they never gave me it, despite the fact I asked for it before Christmas last year. If I haven't got it before 4 o'clock tomorrow, I'm going to have a little chat with our chap, Mr. Laidlaw, and give him a wee bit of a kick. Because frankly, we need to get the game complete. At the moment, it is, as it were, stuck in a drawer to some extent. That said, Martin Potts and I had quite a long chat about various bits and pieces, particularly Madagascar. So I've got a list of 10 questions I need to answer. And that plus 2 or 3 minor fixes completes that game, which I hope is really good news. So it's ready to go effectively. It would take like an afternoon at most to fix it. BF2 is going to take about 7 days of hard work to get done, but without proper information from our printers, there's not much I can do. So I've actually been sitting doing something absolutely horrifying. It's not something you ever want to do. So I'm actually going to show you what I've been doing. I'm sure you're all probably really super excited at finding out how you make one of these games. So I'm going to share the screen, and this should hopefully start showing you something. So what we've got up in the screen, I'll give it a wee second to catch up. So list the ships. It says IGN. It isn't actually. This is actually the USN. Sorry, guys, so if there's any confusion there. So these are all Fletcher-class destroyers. If it's in red, it's in the file. And that file that I'm working on drives a whole pile of games. This file, some of you have seen about half of it, because I've actually released it up to October 43 already. You can download it off the website. Andrew should have that somewhere. I think it's in Day of Infamy, Andrew. I think you've got it in the downloads. And if not, I'll give you it again, and we can put that back out so people can get a hold of this. But all of this information here has to be typed in. Now, as we go down here, that's pretty impressive. But if we now do a search for October 1, 1943, that is the end right here, because you'll notice there are some various bits and pieces in here that maybe don't necessarily relate to destroyers. That is actually the end. Where is it? Of Day of Infamy, right there. To get Watchtower, to get Liberation, to get Kamikaze, to get I Shall Return, to get the China Incident, to get the reprint of Blitzkrieg, that should come out of this as is. I actually need to finish transcribing this. So I've been working on this for so long, I'm actually sick of the sight of it. Effectively, every single one of these data points has to be plugged in to that Word file. So Monson 2, we've got a 2 because in the game we don't know if you're going to actually lose that particular ship. Commissions February 1944 and goes to work up in Bermuda, yada, yada, yada. It goes to Boston, Panama, San Diego, then Pearl Harbor, works up a bit, goes to Anyway, talking Saipan, etc., etc. And what I really like is ships like these ones here, which I'm highlighting. If they go to the CV Strike Force, I actually don't need to worry about the carrier strike groups, because we have in the file notes further down. Let's see if we can find it. That's just stuff getting added. As I get to the carriers, there'll be a note going in, and it'll be something along the lines of this: ongoing strikes on Kyushu. That's a fairly safe bet. Right, so that will tell you what the carriers are meant to be doing. And I don't have a problem putting this in for you all, yeah? The issue, of course, is trying to get this done. And you'll notice this file now starts to become the never-ending story. So we're now finally at row 800. I think we might just be out of destroyers. We are. That's the gearings. We then go into battleships. They're a doddle. A few of them are sunk. A few of them basically are not relevant. Battle cruisers, as you know, they weren't built except for the Alaska class, and so on and so forth, all the way down through escort carriers, cruisers, and then we get to the next bane of my life, destroyer escorts. So I've got another 600 ships just to get down to the destroyer escorts. The one good thing about these is they're in blocks of 6. So you'll notice I've got comments down here saying it makes X number of flotillas and so on and so forth, which is actually really useful. I don't have to worry about blue ones at the moment. I will have to worry about them later on because these went to the Royal Navy. This time I'm not tracking them. But that needs to be completed as soon as possible. So whenever I get a bit of spare time, I basically am a very sad git and do that. So that's what I've been doing with that. I've also been doing a lot of stuff with Jeff about TSWW, hence the background. So please go to our website, www.tkc-games.com, and take a look at the First World War game series, because Jeff and I are going to be doing a video, hopefully in the next few days, probably over the weekend, in which we're going to have a little discussion about how we're going to put together the German army, the British army, and so on. I'm sure you're aware that Eric has given us a whole pile of information, and we need to do some ratings for that. So before we get to that and have a chat, Jeff and I are going to have a call on, I think, Thursday or Friday, where we're going to talk about combat efficiency, and we're going to talk about how the units are put together and so on in the game. I've done some draft ratings today, just before this meeting. So lots of stuff is actually going on in the background. Now, Andrew was talking about 6 degrees, and he and I might well do a little talking head video about what that is for you all. I think that'd be really useful. And at some point, I think Bob and I will probably have a more in-depth chat about where things are going with the software project, because actually a huge amount of work has been done in that. I know it sounds silly. Oh, I'm going to play the game. I'm playing it for a reason. We need to identify everything that works. Bob and I need to find that in the code. We need to get Andrew, who is something of a database whiz, to come up with a way to create all the information that you need to play the frigging game, and actually get that, if at all possible, out something like that Word file into the computer software without it becoming a total pain in the backside. So that's a job for Andrew and Bob to sit together and have a chat about. So never fear, Bob is here. So when we get software problems, he's the man. And, you know, don't be afraid, Andrew's there, because he does all kinds of stuff. He's the guy who looks at our websites. He's the guy who handles a whole pile of stuff to do with these videos, which I don't have time to do. I'm sure Andrew doesn't either. So if anyone out there wants to give us a helping hand, if you've got some good ideas, even if you want to get into video.
There's nothing I enjoy more, John, than editing the videos, topping and tailing them.
Not even munching in camel toe.
No, oh, for goodness sake. There's nothing like, you know, I try and do, you know, subtle innuendos, and you just completely come out with it.
Well, you know, the big hole in the ground. Just so you know, Andrew and I have known each other since we're 9 years old. If I can't take the mickey out of him, I don't know who can. Bob, have you got any comments about that, other than maybe being moist, perhaps?
I despair. I mean, yeah, you can imagine my horror sometimes when I'm out for drinks with these guys. Being quiet and reserved as I am.
And on that note there.
Well, no. I mean, I don't know. I'd like, you know, I might kind of, you know, like to hint a little bit about the fact that, yeah, I mean, you know, since the very beginning, you know, the most exciting thing for me about this, you know, entire project is the fact that, you know, you've got at the end of the day, you've got a working game engine, and it doesn't matter what the data is, it doesn't matter what the maps are, it doesn't matter how many units, it doesn't matter the scale. It could be a field or it could be a galaxy, and that's the, you know, the exciting thing. So to get this far with the software has been absolutely brilliant, and seeing it in action is, you know, it's just amazing. Bob's done a fantastic job. Hopefully in you know, one of our upcoming videos as well, we'll have some very exciting news about the company and people that are, you know, coming on board, hopefully more officially. Some famous names in there, perhaps.
Yeah.
You never know.
Speaking of which, I'm aware that one of our NEDs is now solely waiting for legal clearance from his current main employer. He's actually on annual leave. He's feeling quite upside down because he's in New Zealand at the moment. And but he has told me a couple of times through email and messages and my phone and whatnot that he's still pushing them. As soon as we get that, we're going to announce it. That will be a major press release. And I might even try and get him on board one of these videos and get him do a wee talking head.
Yeah, NED, by the way, is non-executive director, just in case there's people out there who have no idea what an ed is.
Well, you know, well, for a Glaswegian, you got a pretty good idea what an ed is.
That's what I was hinting at.
And let's face it, it's from Paisley. So, I mean, clearly there is kind of a correlation there. Yeah. Anyway,
definitely a hooligan.
Yeah. So, guys, if you've enjoyed what we've been talking about, if you like the banter, give us a big thumbs up in the link down below. If you want to talk about anything, you want to get in touch, we will have our contact details there. Please comment, like, dislike it if you think we're rubbish. Just tell us, because we want to know. We want to make these things better. If you go to our website, the link will be down below. Take a little look at some games. Take a look at the card game. It's a great stocking filler. It's a wonderful thing to give to kids. Particularly people 15 to 25, because they get really engrossed in the movie thing. And to be honest with you, buy some games, because it supports the process of getting Bob further forward with the software. It helps me get the board games out, and helps Andrew with all sorts of stuff that he does. Money always helps us. If you want to get involved and invest in the company, please feel free to email us at info@tkc-games.com. because we would be delighted to get into discussion about that. We are looking for investment, as always. So in the meantime, thank you all so much for taking the time to sit and listen to us chattering away and take a look at what Andrew and I have been saying and all that, and what Bob's been updating on. And we'll be back soon. Have a really good one, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Brilliant. Bye-bye.
Bye.